Good morning. Time for another coding stream. There we go. So, where to start? So, last stream, we were working on kind of DevOpsy stuff a little bit. Yeah, quite a bit, I think. Docker and getting things deployed. And so there's a website now with a lot of placeholder text. I'm realizing there's a lot that needs to be adjusted with the dark theme, but we'll come back to that. But yeah, so this is on the internet now. I think I've locked it out so that no one can actually sign up for an account. But yeah, there's some issues. This is the issue right now, and I've actually spent a few hours since I got it deployed in the intervening week, trying to figure out why this is happening, and I think I understand why now. That's occurring. So we have, we're using NextAuth to do authentication. So that's split up in a couple different places. So the main place is, let's see, authentication.ts. Here is kind of where we are defining the authentication, the auth options from NextAuth. And so this file is then used in, is it like something API, Next API? Yeah, nextauth.ts, right? So here's where we're constructing this NextAuth object and getting the options from server authentication. Yeah. Right, so this all works, right? This is what we're using locally. And then the other thing that also is going on is this middleware piece. So this is Next.js middleware, which according to the NextAuth docs, it mentions it was introduced in 12, Next.js 12. It's a way to run logic before accessing any page. So this was something that I found as an example of how to define what is this actually supposed to do? Let's that's the part that I've not really followed up on. Let's see, middleware. What is this matcher supposed to do? Because the intent was to say these paths should require authentication, right? For these pages. So here you go, matcher. Matcher allows you to filter middleware to run on specific paths. Right. So we want to use, so we're importing from middleware, this default middleware from NextAuth, and exporting it as the default export, and then we're also exporting a property called config. And so we've called this middleware, but we could actually just call this, can we just call this file anything we want? No. Use the file middleware.ts in the root of your project to define middleware. Export function middleware. Export const config. Apparently we can export default as well here. What if you want middleware that applies to different sets of paths? Okay, you can do conditional statements. Okay. So anyway, diversion. I think maybe I'll have to read this a little bit more, but back to the problem at hand. So the problem at hand seems to be that what we're trying to do is have this, hey look, if you only want to secure certain pages, export a config object with a matcher, like this, exactly what we're doing, right? So as it turns out, there's some stuff that goes on inside of this middleware, and it's supposed to be reading well, what it does is it reads an environment variable to get the next auth secret, right? So as I was working on deploying the app, I wanted to do that in a secure way. So let's see. If you look at the Docker Compose I made for the server, there's no secrets here. There's no tokens or anything secret. It's all using Docker secrets. Right now, just, there's a file on the file system that contains it, but the other way of using Docker secrets requires me setting up Swarm, and I have not done that yet. So, and then we tell the web app, basically our backend, it can use these secrets. And then to get the secret into the app, what I ended up doing was I made new environment variables, ending in _file. And so in the env.js, where on the server side we are processing environment variables and turning it into like a config that can be imported in our other backend files. I am saying, oh, if this is not undefined, go and read that file and do the right thing to set up this property, right? So we get database URL, Discord client secret, next auth secret. So, but these are not being set as environment variables. I actually tried doing that, and that caused some problems to manually set environment variables on the process here. So it didn't end up doing that. And instead, we're just relying on the fact that we're parsing, we're using env schema. This is using Zod at the end of the day. And so we have this data object, which is basically all of the processed, sanitized, validated environment variables, either directly from the environment from process.env or created, kind of derived values. So that allows us in the Docker Compose to just say, oh, hey, the secret is actually inside of this file provided by Docker. So that's what I'm doing with nextauth secret file. So what's the problem? Well, the problem is, so in our main nextauth file, we're using auth options, which again, it's coming from this file. We are reading things from env, which is coming from our env.js file that I had up previously. So we're reading nextauth secret from there, and that's all well and good, but by default, the default middleware, well, it's not connected to this stuff at all, right? So what I would need to do is something that I had at one point here, which is I could import env like so, and then I could say something like this, basically matching what's going on over here. Yep. Right. Or I suppose, I haven't tried this, but basically could, import, are we exporting auth options? Auth options? Let's use that syntax since we're using that elsewhere. Auth options? No, it doesn't like that. It's not the same set of options. Okay. And you'd be like, okay, well, that should work, right? Well, we'll just pass in the secret if we're reading it from here. We can't just... And the reason the default one doesn't work is that if we just use process.env, next auth secret, well, that doesn't exist. We're not setting that environment variable anywhere, and we're not going to, because we don't want to have to put the secret in the Docker Compose. We want to read it from a file. So yeah. So we can't do that. And that's why the default doesn't work, is because the default is doing that. It's trying to read from that environment variable, and then that's failing, and we get this error in the server log behind the scenes, like the thing that we saw when we go here. There's a problem with server configuration. Server log says, oh, you didn't set the next auth secret, which is an error in production, and it should be. You should be setting that. The issue is that the middleware, again, tries to look for the environment variable that doesn't exist. So why can't we just pass this? Well, this file, Next.js, apparently processes client-side and server-side. And we can't import this file, and we wouldn't want to import this file, and the environment variables wouldn't exist on the front end. So yeah, nor can we simply put in a placeholder value here. Yeah. So I think one thing I want to do, I do want to see if this works locally. My local secret, not on the deployed thing, but the local one, I think I just set to just secret. So I'm gonna go back a couple steps here, and we're gonna try to see if this will work. Let me remove that import. Just kind of sanity check that this thing is going to work at all. So if I've understood the issue, like, we should be able to authorize, and this will take us back, and that works. And then we can go to the diary, and yeah, okay, that works. Good. And we can go to settings, and I wiped out the DB, so this is basically empty DB, other than I added a meal to be able to see something in the diary. There we go. Oops, friends is not a page that exists yet. Okay. I probably should make it so that the theme toggle does persist across pages. I thought, okay, well, anyway, that aside, so this works, but this is not okay. What I really need to figure out how to do is to essentially have this middleware do one thing when Next.js is loading it for the front end, and one for the back end. And I guess I can do that, right? We can get secret. Let's see, what can we do here? We can do get next auth secret. Yeah, I know. Okay, let's say this is going to be a promise of a string. We can do this, right? Yeah, we don't. It's a nice try, Copilot, but that's not what I'm going for here. Can we await like this? Apparently we can. Okay, so really what I want to do is I want to say something like not like that. If type of window undefined, server client, and we'll just return secret again. So I'm just trying to understand All right. It's async function. Why does this need to be async? Well, ultimately, what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to. Does it need to be async? Actually, I guess not. Like we'll do a require of the server/env file, but it doesn't have to be an asynchronous import, does it? Like we'll just require it. Maybe it doesn't need to be async, so maybe we don't need to await. Maybe this is simpler than. Yeah. Okay, let's try it this way. So. Here is my locally running next dev, and we'll refresh this. So we saw there in the console right before all the queries, server. I guess I could have like put a bigger marker there to make it clear what was going on in that xxxx. There we go. Yeah, server. Now we don't see anything in the console here on the front end. But at some point there must be client-side running of this. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been running into these issues that we've been running into. Or maybe that's not true. I don't know. But what we're going to do here is we're going to say const env. Yeah, Copilot is almost there. Yeah. So let's try logging out and logging back in. Let me refresh in between as well. And then we'll oh no, that's fine. That's Discord. Yeah, thank you, Discord. Alright, if we go to diary, this has been what's failing. This is still... Hold on, what's going on here? A Node.js API is used, process.exit, which is not supported at Edge runtime. Invalid environment variables. Right, so this is happening when we require server env. Okay. So is this... So next is... So what I'm reading from this... I'll open the docs too, yeah. Is that maybe next is running a runtime in which window is defined, but our... or window's not defined, but our environment variables aren't present either? Okay. Calling require directly is not allowed. Well, we're doing that. So why Why didn't error about that if that's what's going on? I mean, there's probably something that I'm just not doing right according to what Next.js wants. So, like I mentioned, I've been looking at this problem, trying to solve this for a little while now. I was almost at the point, in fact, I was to the point where the next step for Next.js was to get rid of it. And instead look at just using Express with tRPC for the backend and maybe using Vite, which I played around a little bit before. So if we're like halfway through the stream today, let's say, so I guess I'm saying I'm gonna spend another hour at most. And if we can't make progress on this, then I'm probably going to switch tracks. So, so under what circumstances is our middleware being run inside of this edge runtime? Or is this it says it's an error. Is it an error? Oh, that's that. Yeah, I mean, okay, it is an error. I mean, there is an error because I wonder, could we say process.env.nextAuth secret file not equal to undefined, right? So on the server side, this environment variable will be set. Is the thought. I wonder. Nope, doesn't like that. Yeah, it says no secret. Huh. Hold on. Let's add some more logging. So have environment variable presumably it's a nice try, Copilot, but not what I'm trying to say. Front end edge, right? Go back here, refresh. Okay. Secret file undefined. So Next.auth secret file was not defined. It should be. Oh. Hold on. Control-Shift-N. There we go. Let me check one thing real quick. It's possible that in the .env file I set up for local dev that it's a different. Oh, I am using that. I am using Next.auth secret there. We could change that. Let's use file. So at least. So this is the other thing that I think is sometimes a struggle, where you have one way of things working locally, and then you go to deploy and it works differently. And then you end up in a situation where you have to weigh the cost and benefit of either making your local development more like what you're deploying to versus just deploying over and over again. So what I've been doing this week is just deploying things. And this morning when I was prepping for the stream and thinking about, oh, are we really going to just throw away Next.js and do something else? Well, maybe I should spend a little bit more time investigating this, and we can do that the first part of the stream. And I kind of got started again on thinking about what could be wrong. Where was it going with this thought? One moment while I double check that I have the right path here. Scroll. Next auth secret.txt. Okay, so now the local.env file uses the next auth secret file environment variable, just like what we have configured in production. Right, it's the same thing. So now it's expected, and this is where I'll probably have to go back and change that env.js file to say, no, we should always just get next auth secret file. Do I really want to do that? I don't know. But for the purposes of making sure that this thing actually works, hey, look, an error. Yeah. Expected undefined receive string. Okay, so if I do this again, is this gonna fit? Yep, okay. So I'll do it right now. Secret file. If it's not undefined, oh, I didn't define base URL. I see. So this is the this whole thing has gotten a little too complicated in my attempt to be very clever about validating the environment. So the idea is we have one case here for we're in like in our CI pipeline, you know, doing a build versus it's set to false or it's not present, and then this setup applies, or you know, it's false or not set, and then this setup applies, right? Being able to have like alternate things. Oh, we definitely don't have this option, so the database URL is present. But if we have these things, then this part is optional because we'll set it, we'll calculate it. So yeah, it makes it difficult to understand exactly what this is trying to say, right? So these error arrays are like for the different combinations. And I don't want to, it's annoying because I don't want to pull up my local env file on stream because it does actually have secrets in it that I don't want to share, such as the secret for my Discord app. Okay, so what is unhappy here? Discord client secret file. Oh, right. We have to specify that if we're going to specify 1. Well, in that case, there's nothing secret in there any longer. That solves itself. All right. So what we're dealing with here is this file. In other circumstances, this might be secret because it would have like a Postgres password in it. Although that's the other thing is Postgres password file, or is it secret file? Password file. Cool. All right, and then we have to specify all the other Postgres. User equals Postgres. Yep. Postgres host. From the web app's perspective, running on my local system, that is localhost. Yeah. Okay, so is that Discord client secret file? Missing a word there. There. Now it's happy with that combination of environment variables. Cool. All right. So we have a server. And I think last stream I spent some time having like the local dev server running inside of Docker. I've since gave up on that this morning. It was taking, I don't know what the deal was, but it was just taking a really long time for the dev server to start. So I'm just running it locally. Thus, I have this env file. A trick. It's similar to the other things we've been doing where we are like masking out directories like node modules. This is the wrong Docker Compose. Let's see. Docker Compose. There's 2 of them. So what I had been trying to do this morning is just use the base node image and then give it a set of commands to run. And this did work at one point. It just took a long time to start up. And then the second time, it didn't seem to want to start up at all. So one thing, maybe we did this last stream as well, but there's this profiles option. So that if you specify a profile here, if you don't run Docker Compose and select that profile, this doesn't run at all. However, if I did want to run it, one of the things I've figured out how to do, you can map not just directories in volumes, but it seems like you can map individual files. So I have now this .env empty.local, which is just an empty file that maps over the .env file so that we can mount the source directory into this container and then not see the .env file, so that we can ensure that our environment variables we're setting here that match how we're kind of doing it in prod work. But of course now I've redone all of that again via this .env file and just giving a path to a text file that has the secrets. So just simulating the same thing different ways. So if we go to diary now, does this work or does this throw an error? Okay. So it's the same error. We don't see environment variables that we're expecting, perhaps. Okay. Secret file. So we did, let me get back to the file in question, this middleware file, right? So we do see this environment variable, right? It has the environment variable, but then we get an error when we require this file, right? So when we require this, what this is doing inside is it is looking at process.env, and it's checking it to see that all of these things are set. Now it's interesting, right? So next.secret file, we already established is there, but it says it, oh no, okay, so expected undefined receive string. Okay. That makes sense. Expected undefined receive string. CI required. Why is it like this? So generally, it's not good to do something like this, to log all of the environment variables. I think we're okay. One of the one of the whole points. So there's two schools of thought on this, right? So one is, yeah, you know, thinking of to like 12-factor apps. You set up applications, like little services, and you use environment variables to parameterize them, kind of like what we're doing here. But on the other hand, and I've set this up so there's like two opposing schools of thought. I don't think that's really true. But on the other hand, you know, people say, well, you shouldn't pass sensitive information, credentials, secrets via environment variables because they're enumerable. People can do things like this. And so those are not mutually exclusive ideas, because we can do things like, well, we'll have the secret in a vault or in a secret file or something, and then we can pass the path to that secret in the environment variable, and then the service can read it from there. Or it could be, you know, not a file, but it could be you know, some kind of locator to some kind of service. So yeah, and then, you know, it's just important that we don't do things like we could try to read the secret file and then put it back into the process.env. Shouldn't do that, because then again we would be able to enumerate it. So that's what we're avoiding here. And honestly, we're getting to the point now where pretty much both the local dev and the deployed app are passing around a secret file instead of the secret. You know, being able to pass in the secret via environmental variable is very makes it easier for local development. But then you end up with these like local versus deploy time differences that make troubleshooting things harder. So maybe at some point I'll just get rid of the option to pass the raw things in and require just passing in a path to a file or something. Anyway, let's try this, and we should see what's in. Okay. So now we know something new. Next runtime edge. And not all of our environment variables are here. Next.secret's not there, which makes sense. So something special is happening. So that's interesting, right? So what if we just said, hey, you know, if process.env.next runtime is edge, then return empty string. Does that make our error go away? It gives us a new error. Right. Let me go back. And then I go to diary. Oh yeah, we're edge. And there's no secret. Whoops. Well, that's kind of unfortunate. Okay, so this is where I probably just need to read more about Next.js middleware Edge runtime. Hey, here's a Stack Overflow question about a year ago. I'm making APIs to do stuff with the Node APIs and calling them from your middleware. Can we export const runtime? Node.js. Let me try stopping and restarting the dev server just to be sure that we're current. Oh, you know what? It helps if I whoops. It helps if I'm actually testing against local. Whoops. Oh, hey, look. Let's see. So I was wondering why I was like navigating and nothing was happening. Like we weren't getting any console logs or anything. Yeah, it helps if we're running, you know, looking at localhost. Okay, so we go to diary. Yeah. So Edge still. So exporting const runtime does not do anything for the middleware. I'll call runtime and export it. Yeah, but this is for like route segments. It probably still does not apply to middleware. Okay, so environment variables. You can use process AV to access environment variables. But it doesn't have all my environment variables. It only has some of them. Why does it only have some of them? Right. We go back up to here. And then we go back to here. And we go navigate here. So Edge, we have these environment variables. So it's some of them. It's interesting. Why does it have this? I mean, we have other... Again, it's handy that I was able to remove all the actual secrets. So, like, why are these present, but none of the others? Is there, like, a whitelist? That it has to start with next or versal? Or something? I don't know. Huh.
All right. I'll tell you the truth.
So what are the implications? Like this does nothing for me. My infrastructure is not set up to like have Edge functions running somewhere. So this having a special runtime is not helpful for me because it's not going to do anything. And it can't do anything. And then I'm left with questions of like, okay, well, if I have the secret in a file and it's provided by Docker, what does it mean? What does it mean? And the answer, it means nothing for me right now. And I wish I could just turn this off. And this is the kind of thing where I'm like, why am I using XJS if I'm having to deal with this? And I could deploy to some cloud solution that would take advantage of these things, but I don't really want to do that for reasons. So how do I fix this? I guess in the short term, a thing I could do is, let's see here. So we have this logic here, right? And I could just read from the secret file to get the secret. Right, I could do that. Now, there's several things I don't like about this. Ideally, I would, go and probably take all of this logic and move it somewhere else so that I could import it and use it. I also don't like the fact that I'm using a synchronous API here. That's not good practice. But then, if I don't do that, I need to. Let's see here. Import. Oops, caps. Yep, there we go. Look. We know it's there. And then we're going to return. We'll just make this async. And we'll await. And this gets us a secret. Why was... Oh, right. Secret.trim. Okay, cool. And then, of course, the type of this goes back to what it originally was. A promise. And then, okay, so we don't need that. Okay, so if we are... I'm going to leave the console logs for a while. Okay, so if we don't have this, I guess we'll just return an empty string and let it error. If it's going to error. Now, throw new error. There we go. Copilot's got some reasonable text there for us. And then otherwise, I guess I'll explicitly say else. Else if, so if we're not edge, but does this matter at this point, right? I mean, if we're doing this anyway, we might as well. Like, do we need any of this? Could we not just do this? So I think my theory before was that somehow this code, this middleware, was being processed to be part of the rendering process, basically like front end execution environment. But it seems like what's actually happening is there was an environment that I was not aware of, a pseudo environment, this edge runtime, and that's where this sometimes runs, depending on how we're running next. Let's see if this is actually true. Right, so let's go back to local. Does this work? If I go to diary, okay, top level await experiment is not enabled. Webpack. Restart server. Compiling middleware client and server. Not relevant. How to disable edge runtime. Hey, look, someone doing something with middleware. Gross. Are we gonna load? Huh? I thought it was. Okay. XJS top level await. Yeah. Config that experiments equals. That's typed right, yeah. Good. Try this. Oh. What's this warning? Edge runtime does not support Node.js FS promises module. Great. Probably also doesn't support FS. Can we just not? Okay. I guess I'll try one more thing. Nope. And why would that work? Right? Because it's not even getting that far, right? Because it's already decided that it's going to use its edge runtime. Okay. Well, seems kind of stuck. I guess the other thing to look into would be, we know that there are environment variables getting to this edge runtime, but not all of them, only some of them. How are they getting there? Okay, let's go back to next config. Oh, there's an experimental option. Nothing about edge though. Server runtime config. Maybe. Oh no, there's no experimental. That's just a that's maybe not true. Next config. Hey Mono. Monday morning for you. Just trying to wrangle with Next.js, making it do what I want it to do. Yeah, it's been we're pretty close. Ooh, here's a handy. Where did it go? Check out that link. That might be a page. We'll see. So the app is actually up. DailyJoule.app. But if you try it, if you could log in, I have it kind of locked down right now. But if you could log in, you try to go anywhere, you just get this error. So that is the current struggle. And it's all Next.js's fault and mine, right? So what I'm trying to understand right now, so as it turns out, Next.js has like this edge runtime that apparently middleware runs inside of, and it's special. You can't read from files. How did it hurt me? Well, you can't read from files apparently because you can't use any of the Node.js APIs in it. You have a limited set of environment variables from the like containing system, and they're coming from somewhere, but it's not clear where they're coming from. Right, so I think we've lost the. Here it is. So in the edge environment, we just have these. Like we have a bunch of them defined. Here we go. All this stuff. But only these things are coming through, which could be fine, except for the fact that, yeah. Nice emote. Well, it's shipped. It's just not, it's not a complete ship that was shipped. So what I'm looking for now is like, is there a way to change the bundled environment variables that are passed on to the edge runtime? It's an it, not a ship. Okay. Yeah, and this is the same page that I was already on. Edge runtime differences, yada yada yada. Environment variables. There's a whole section. You can use process.env. Yeah, but clearly they're not all available. So how do environment variables get there? Next.js. Edge runtime environment variables. This is my only coding weekly stream. Yep. I did do some stuff through the week, kind of to, well, one, there was a bunch of stuff where I had to like set up secrets and stuff like that I didn't want to put on stream anyway. But then spent some time yesterday and this morning also trying to move this forward. Otherwise, like even this would not be as productive as what it is. I might at some point do more. I don't know. Might change around the schedule at some point. But for now, yeah, this is it. Sunday morning for me, Monday for you. Coding. All right, so where? It's in experimental mode as of 2022. Environment variables I can put. Yeah. Inconsistencies with environment variables and middleware. You're struggling to find a coding stream schedule yourself. Oh, you lost your 4-day work week. Oh no. Oh, that's too bad. Yeah, I wouldn't even want to think about having like a 4-day work week for me. Busy these days during the week with things, things and stuff. I had to use up a lot of leave, so went to a 4-day week rather than bulk time off. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've done that at one point, but I've now my strategy is to save it up, and then I just take, you know, after Thanksgiving, so the end of November through into Christmas, into the New Year's rather. Just take that whole block of time off. So there'll be a lot of streams at the end of the year. So I have like a month and a half. Yeah, there's some rollover for the way my employer does PTO, but it's capped. So I don't have to use it all by the end of the year, but need to use most of it. So, and I like to have, you know, a nice long chunk. It gives some time to, like, you know, really decompress and do some projects and, you know, focus on those things. So here's someone talking about using webpack config to detect next runtime and then define environment variables. That looks kind of ugly to me. Why is there not any documentation on how the environment variables, like, obviously there are some environment variables. How do they get there? Okay. Next runtime. That was the environment variable, right? That was set. Scroll up further to see it. Next runtime, yeah. Yeah, it's cool. They did a little crackdown recently at work. My work made over 400 hours. That's a bit. You have 150. You need to get it below 90 before forces to take all of June off. Wow. Yeah. That'd be unfortunate if he or she had plans where they were saving up all that for, but that is a bit much. 400 hours. It is a bit of a, you know, thinking on the company side of things is a bit, you know, that's just like a kind of like a debt. Kind of outstanding that it is accumulating. Yeah, anyway. Where is next runtime being set? Ooh. Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's some documentation that talks about next runtime. Next server context RS. App renderer. I like banking it up so that if I left or got let go, it's a decent amount to fall back on. Yeah. Makes sense. here's a Webpack config that sets up next runtime. If is edge server edge, is node server node.js. Is node server or is edge server. Like there must be something that's like looking at the environment variables that are in the environment based on them starting with next or something and then passing them through. But I suspect that whatever is doing that is not going to allow us to inject something else into there, just to guess, because there's not really been any, I've not come across any documentation about how this is supposed to work, and now I'm looking through the code, so it's not a good sign. I'll register all environments. You can use next runtime to get the current environment. Using await import. Okay. The other thing I could look for is maybe something that's dealing with the middleware specifically. Ooh. This looks promising. Okay, object keys, process AND map. Object from entries. Interesting. What is this supposed to be doing? I guess it creates a new object that has a copy. It's like a shallow copy. That's what that looks like that's doing. Like it's not filtering by key or anything. Are you, am I mainly JavaScript, TypeScript, proficient in other languages? So I've programmed in a number of languages over the years, and I have varying levels of proficiency, and or am rusty in in them. The languages that I'm using most these days are TypeScript and a little bit of Python. My previous the startup I was working at back before my current employment stint was mainly Python on the back end. So that was the primary language there, and then some other languages as well. So code that I've actually put into production, Scala, Clojure, Java, in like the last decade. TypeScript, JavaScript, CoffeeScript, Python I already mentioned. Yeah, a bit of JVM. Yeah, the Scala stuff was specifically for some stuff we were doing around reporting with Apache Spark a number of years ago. And then Clojure script, and then yeah, I guess that's a little bit of C#, a couple of like maintenance things, things had, old services that needed to be updated. And then, other languages over the years. I have a couple of there's an open source project I have that is written in Rust. And then going way back, I have some stuff in my GitHub that's like C++. Yeah, what else? Other languages touched a little bit. Yeah. I mean, I first learned how to, I started learning how to code in, I guess it would have been like 96. Yeah. And so, especially back then, I was always, interested in just learning whatever. And I guess that's not really changed, but things are a bit more focused on problems at hand. Yeah, here's that error that we were seeing before. And create process polyfill, build environment variables from object keys process over in value. Oh, cool. My first proper language was probably Java in 08 at uni. Yeah. Makes sense. Oh, I see. Mainly Kotlin, which I love as a language, especially compared to Java. Yeah, Kotlin. I've not done anything with Kotlin. Like Lisps have always really been appealing to me. Yeah, C and assembly. Yeah, that was one of the things I cut my teeth on, learning how to code and looking for projects back when I was younger was like operating system development was really exciting to me in the late 90s. So that was C and assembly for, my old Pentium computer I had back then. Somehow you ended up in Android because you knew Java from that one course that you failed. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I guess most people would describe me as self-taught, although a lot of the things I learned, there were, even back at the time, there were a good number of resources on the internet, as it was in 96. And there was this local college course. I was living in Oklahoma at the time that had like a C++ course televised. And so that was more of a, directed thing. Not that I don't think I had a C++ compiler. So I was watching this thing and learning all about C++ with no ability to actually write anything and test it out. But a lot of that stuck with me until I finally was able to try some of that out over the next few years. But yeah, switching from hardware to software was a bit rough. So I'm not seeing a silver bullet. You have an American language kind of joke? Oh yeah? As long as it's not, you know, I guess I don't really have chat rules set up here, but I would say, you know, as long as it's not something that's going to be hurtful to people. Sure. Say Kansas and then arc. What about it? Kansas. And now Arkansas. Uh-huh. As someone I've not lived in Kansas, but I did live in Oklahoma, and I have lived in Arkansas. What's the joke? How is it not Kansas? Because language is weird. It's whatever. It's whatever people say it's supposed to be pronounced as. Names. That's why I'm always like, you know, I'm going to try pronouncing this name, right? You'll have to tell me if it's right or not, because they're not phonetic. But yeah, that is kind of an oldie. But let's just say I've heard it once or twice. All right. It's not looking good for Next.js. Like, I guess the other thing... the other thing we could do is not use middleware. But that kind of stinks, right? Because then what we'd have to do is, like, on each page, do something to check, oh, are we authenticated or not? And I definitely don't want to do that. Next.js disable edge runtime. Let's see. Let's look for a bigger solution. Melbourne, but the pronunciation is Melbourne. Move to a discussion. You got it right with the pronunciation. Oh yeah, we've been here. Sudden bright. There's no way to do it at the moment. It's being worked on. Cool. No, doesn't apply to middleware. Okay, so is that true? Hold on. Experimental. Runtime. Node.js. You have enabled experimental feature. Not covered by Simver. Yeah, okay. You're not selling me on this library framework. Nope. Affected nothing. How do you find doing Node on the back end compared to Java, Clojure, Scala, something strict? What do you mean by strict? I think now, regardless of language, runtime or whatever, you can always put yourself or find yourself in a situation where there's like lots of boilerplate, lots of, stuff you have to do just to make anything work. But having said that, every time I look at a Java project, I think about, well, how would I have done this, doing it the typical way in Node? And I feel like it would be more compact. And then I think about how I might go about doing it in Clojure, and then I miss Lisp. But it's not something I can really recommend to work because of the downsides in terms of people that are willing to use Lisp. TypeScript, if we're talking about types, so there's a lot of things you can express in TypeScript that I don't think you can really express concisely. Like, you'd have to build up, you wouldn't use types for that, for kind of defining those relationships. You would be using classes and interfaces and factories and all those things. But there's lots of things you can do in TypeScript types. The downside is there's definitely I'll just do as any, which even I will do, right? A few places just to make things work because I haven't figured out better types, or I'm integrating with a library that's providing types, and that interface is a little weird. But hey, we're pretty good. We only have a few places with any. Yeah. For what it's worth, I used to run my APIs in Node.js, but I switched a few years back. Both easier and harder. Sure. Okay. So I think I'm just about done with Next.js for now. I think I'd like to do something a little different. And I think what I'm going to do, this is what I was thinking about yesterday, but I figured I would just try on stream for a bit, and I think an hour and a half is a fair amount to make this work. There's probably things I could do differently, but given the components I have and how I'm trying to connect them together, I just don't see a good path forward. So instead, what if we didn't use Next.js? What would that look like, right? So we have a front end and we have a back end. The back end, I think, will be really easy to convert to not use Next.js, except for what? Except for the part where we're using NextAuth, maybe? Can we use NextAuth without using Next.js? Is probably a question to answer. NextAuth. It's becoming auth.js. That's probably indicative, right? So it's a complete open source authentication solution for Next.js applications. It has a bunch of providers, which is kind of handy. If we have to also switch away from this, then that'll change some things. But it's been kind of convenient. But things this does provide, like the landing page, like basically the pages themselves, like the kind of front end pieces, are things that are not going to work if we're not using Next.js. So maybe we'll have to use a different authentication piece, or maybe this new auth.js. Hey, look, is targeting. That's the question, right? So we have a back end and we have a front end. The front end, we're going to switch both away from Next.js. The front end is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be harder. It's going to be different. There are different things to do for those things. The auth piece is kind of the part that overlaps, because there are front end views that are currently being provided by Next Auth that we'll have to use a different solution for or implement ourselves. The backend also needs some kind of auth stuff provided. Yeah. So there's that. The actual APIs are these procedures. We're using tRPC, right? So we have these different procedures that are defined via authenticated procedure, which is like this just tRPC.procedure, and we're using this isAuth thing on it as well. So these could be just unchanged, right? So tRPC is not specific to Next.js. In fact, I was reading a thing on like how to set up tRPC with Express. So we could just have a very simple like Express HTTP server that is serving our Typescript RPC procedures. So we could do that. A thing I was looking at, I guess maybe a month or two ago, was there's a kind of a Rust tRPC. I mean, it's not tRPC. It's is this it? Yeah. It's a work in progress. I was looking at this. It's a blazing fast and easy to use tRPC-like server for Rust, right? So it's a similar kind of API for defining RPC endpoints. So this is a thing I came across. I haven't looked at it too deeply. But this would involve like a full rewrite of the backend, and we would. It's probably too much to do, because like right now we're using Prisma, and we probably want to switch to using something else. It would make sense to continue to use Prisma. Maybe. I mean, you still could, right? And then just use something else that's in Rustland to, build your database queries for Rust. But it's a bit much to do, maybe. And then on the front end, we would remove all the Next.js stuff, and then we could just do like a single page app kind of style thing where we just use React Router. Oh, wait. Yeah, will we still do that? It's occurring to me that we still have... yeah, I guess we do that. Because we do have pages that we're navigating around through. I'm just thinking about the fact, like, how are things going to work? We have Redux on the front end for managing state as well. Yeah. So this would be not something to do in an hour, but something that we could chip away at over a couple of streams. Because I'm not seeing a way to move forward with Next.js right now, because of the fact that unless we give up on the idea of not exposing secrets via environment variables, this is not going to work, because we can't read from files in this because it's in the Edge runtime. There's no way to tell Next not to use the Edge runtime for this middleware. And choosing the right tool in JavaScript TypeScript, it can be. I mean, it's one of those things. It's just like any kind of like decision around using this tool versus that tool. You can overanalyze things. On the other hand, there was not a huge amount. It's not like I spent a lot of time deciding to go with Next.js in the first place. And again, this was a decision that was made back in September, I think. Basically when I first started this project. August? I use create. Oh no, I use create next app. Okay, yeah. So back in August. Just as a, why not just try it this way, right? So what I'm gonna do is, we're about halfway into the stream. So, as is tradition, I'm gonna take a quick break here, and I'll be back in just a few minutes, and we'll come back, and hopefully by then I'll figure out what we're doing next. Be right back. All right, I am back. Now what to do? Okay. This gets me thinking of something, though. Let me, I mean, it's fun and tempting as it would be to, like, rewrite the backend to use, Rust. You've heard a bunch about Next.js? Well, I've been talking about Next.js. I think every stream is something about Next.js. And it's got a lot of cool things, but it has a lot of things in it, and some things I just I don't need. But yeah, so we could let me just save experiments. Let's get that out of the way. So as tempting as it would be to just like rewrite the backend in Rust, that would be like a fun big project, but it would be a big project. And I would like actually to be able to use this app. Like, as much fun as it is to just like have a project to work on stream, just to do that. One of the streamers you follow, Mod4, does just express Prisma, and everyone always asks, why not Next.js? Well, it's an option until it doesn't work for you. And one of the things is that, like, if I wanted to make an app to deploy to Vercel's solution, maybe I'm not really interested in like, that's like even more like vendor lock-in, I feel, than like a lot of the things I do elsewhere that involve like AWS stuff. Yeah. It's always trade-offs, right? So anyway, so let's do Express backend, because if we stay on TypeScript, we can continue to use tRPC. We can continue to use Prisma. We don't have to change everything. We can basically like lift and shift the back end. And the problem we'll need to solve after we get that working will be the authentication, like sessions stuff for the API, because that right now is using XAuth, and I don't think that's going to be a thing we'll be able to continue to use. So, I will come back to this then, because I think maybe it seems like this auth.js is something that's intended to work for things besides Next. Although, yeah, it's very similar. Yeah, so we'll come back to that. One of the things I wanted to look at, so let's look at tRPC. Right, so this is what we're using to provide API for the app, which it's kind of nice because it's kind of you can define a procedure, you use Zod for validation, and then you get out of the box a type signature for your API, both input and output, that's available both for backend, like when you're writing the procedure, you know exactly what you're getting in, it's type, and then on the front end, you can call into that API and you have the type there as well. And that's nice. And there was something I thought I saw. Yeah, tRPC Playground, was this it? That if we're gonna work on a backend, like a lift and shift, it might be nice to be able to call our procedures without without having the front end converted over yet. Yeah, because probably what we'll do is like we'll set up an Express server, we'll get that running, we'll move the procedures over to it. We'll have to strip out the existing like auth stuff from that until we build something new. And then it'll be good to be able to like verify that those things were working otherwise. So it looks like we can, so yeah, here's, make it bigger, there we go. So it's kind of like having the graphical UI, as in graph IQL for GraphQL, to be able to run queries. Okay, so maybe we can add that too while we're messing around with things. So quick start. See, there was one using Express, wasn't there? There we go. Yeah, just Express, tRPC server, yada yada yada. Okay. And then the relevant bit here is this, is setting up the server. So I guess we can just make a index.ts file, and then we also need to it's just Express, right? It's been so long since I have done a setup like this. Yep. As fun as it is to let Copilot write code for us, let's actually use something that should be working as a reference. So here we go. Import Express. Yep. Ooh, request. What is that? What is that? I'm gonna take that. Uh-huh. And then tRPC Express. What is that? Okay. Do we already have that package? And then we just need app router. And create context. It's not router. Is it? Routers underscore app. Okay, and then this create context is just wrong. Right, because this is like something specific to next. Do we have a type that is appropriate? Yeah. From adapters express. Okay, and that is a thing. Sure, though. Their function was an async function, which is interesting because they're not awaiting here anything, are they? It's curious. Okay. So this should mostly like almost work, right? Oh, hard to see what's going on in that terminal. So we have TS node, right? TS node. Server. Nope. Node modules that bin TS node. Server. Look, now it's a module. Shoot. Interesting. It's probably gonna break things. What? You gotta sleep? It is quite late for you over there. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, hopefully we have some progress to show by next week. But yeah, get some sleep. I'm crossing fingers right now. Okay. First I have to remember how to actually make this work. It should not be so hard to run a file. Import statement. Hey, I've been here before. Maybe. Config. Come on. All right, something different. Cannot find module server Prisma. Wait, does this replace? All right, up here I'm using, okay, great. Huh. Right, so the way I have tsconfig set up here by default, we're using ESNext modules, right? So the compiled JavaScript is using modules. So that's why we're getting that error. You know, we can just export default empty object. Cool. And then I'm gonna undo my tsconfig change. We'll try this again. Okay. And then to load an ES module set, type module and package.json. Unknown file extension TS. TS node, this error. Yeah, remove type module from package.json. Compiler options, ES module interop true. I already have that. Try again. Okay. ESM? Is that a thing? Okay. What? I don't know. Oh, I see. I was focused in the terminal. I'm hitting Control C. That does nothing. Cool. Are you really gonna make me copy paste all of the compile options there just to set? Okay, and then unwind all the things I just did. I guess that was just that, right? And then I shouldn't need that. Oh, don't want to do that either. Try that. All right, and then oh, what? Oh, there we go. Okay, cannot find module server Prisma. You really should be able to. See, it's right there. Okay. Okay, what if I were just to change that to that? Cannot find module server Prisma. It's right there though. Let's interesting. Should resolve the paths. keep on trying things until something works. Wait, let's use the TS node we just installed. Cannot find module, DailyJoule server context, imported from. But it's right here. Huh. Cannot find package tilde imported from authentication. What do you mean? Have to copy the compiler options into here as well? Surely not. So, oops. Make sure that this is, yeah. I did not think this would be so difficult. I mean, granted, yeah, you could do this. Just use the Typescript compiler, compile the file, and run it. This person says this worked by adding type module, uncomment module resolution node. We have that already in compiler options. We already have that. Just run the script. Just do it. Nope, same error. Looks familiar. Yep, all of that. just use this package. TS node custom paths. Maybe there's something to do with that that's not working right. Since that's now our last error. What is tsconfig paths coming from here? Huh. Great. Let's unwind some of the changes we made. Okay. Did we get a different error now? Nope, same error. Oops. Nope, doesn't work still. Okay. Let's start unwinding some of these changes. And it's really unfortunate. I really wanted to be able to just run TS node on the server and get something running. But apparently, no, not allowed. All right, so let's. What do we want to do here? Okay, so everything in Pages right now is Next.js stuff. Benefit of source control. I'm just gonna delete all. I'm gonna delete the whole folder because it's just gonna give us a bunch of TypeScript errors anyway about things not aligning, so it just goes away. Hey, that worked. Do we have things set up so that they will compile somewhere when we run TSC? Maybe not. Let's see. Isn't there like an output? Yeah, tr. There you go. one is this? Interesting. Oh, I have no emit set. Do I? Whoops. I guess this must be like a hidden folder for me. But there's stuff. Perfect. So I think what we're going to have is we're going to have a bit of a conflict here between what we're going to need to do for the back end, running under Node, versus what we want to output for the front end. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, interesting. Options for this? Okay. So the resulting JavaScript still has these paths. Is there a way for it to convert those paths? Otherwise, we might have to just get rid of them. There's that. Tsconfig paths. Typescript paths resolve. It's funny. Okay, so I think a thing I assumed with the TypeScript paths was that it would like rewrite them, but apparently no, it doesn't do that, which means the compiled JavaScript still retains those paths that it imports from. And this looks like a solution to then tell Node how to resolve those paths, which is interesting. Subpath patterns? Private mappings that only apply to import specifiers within the package itself. Interesting. Huh. So it's kind of like that, but for will it work? I mean, first of all, no. The package JSON isn't here. Even if it were, this server authentication. What a mess. You know, this was supposed to be like getting this set up was supposed to be the easy part. Are you sure we can't do Server Express? Alright. Cannot find module. Interesting. I mean, that is actually pretty interesting, right? Because so we tried to run Server Express, and that obviously imported server context. Oh, right, but we're not using, we're not using the tilde syntax on our imports here. So that works. And then we get to authentication. And authentication is where we then try to import Prisma. I guess we just change this. Haha. All right, cool. So what we need now is to read our environment file. .env file. Yeah, you can do that. Why don't you import .env? Do we have that in our package.json? Nope. npm I save. I gotta provide ourselves the capabilities that Next.js was providing before. Okay, so it loads the .env file contents into the process.env by default. Okay, cool. Come on. Right, so we must be importing something somewhere. Right, so we're importing something somewhere that is at the top level. Like before we get into main, is looking at process.env. Yes. Is it this file? Could be. Or no, it's probably context, right? It's probably create context. Something is. Right, we don't even import, where do we import env? Authentication. Right, so as soon as this file is imported, right, so, right. So this file imports stuff from authentication, and that immediately tries to validate the environment variables. So what we need to do, I guess, can we import inside of a function? Nope. Can we create context? Is that a thing we can do? If this was an async function? Yeah. I mean, honestly, it would probably be better if our env file, I mean, it's so nice, right? It's so nice to have it so that you you can just import it and you have env and it has all the settings in it. but it does mean that that happens when the module is loaded. Which means now we have to kind of defer loading these things until we're in main for this not to break. Theoretically. Oh, right, sorry. That has to happen first. Here, so that. Expected undefined receive string. Node env required. Okay, so now the other thing is that Next.js was setting node env. So this is going to be probably for a couple of streams, discovering all the things that Next.js did for us. Cannot find. Okay, so here. I don't want to change it. Okay, what if we... Can we try this thing again that we did? This imports thing? Will this work now? Come on. How is this supposed to work? Subpath imports. In addition to the exports field, there's a package imports field to create private mappings that only apply to import specifiers from within the package itself. Imports field must always start with pound. Okay. Okay, so I see. So we just have to change the syntax from that in TypeScript files, please. So we're going to change our special pathing syntax from this to this. And then in tsconfig, we just update the path setting here to do it that way. We need to start there. And get rid of that now. So did that. Utils. Okay, that seems okay. All right, so does this work? /server tRPC is not a valid internal import specifier name. Okay. Oh no slash. Okay. And what about the subpath patterns? So can I just do that? Just making sure that I'm not going to replace anything I don't want to replace. That seems fine. Cannot find module. Server tRPC. Okay. Server tRPC. So we specify it this way. Maybe we cannot get away with just doing #. Cannot find module DailyJoule tRPC. Can it tell me where it is that it... here. Server/tRPC. Oh, right. So I did this wrong because this needs to be like server/. Okay, that makes sense. Cannot find module DailyJoule server tRPC. That's right there. Do I need to be like .ts? .ts? I can't. Okay. Now, do I need to do it like that? Work with me here. Ah, okay. Progress. Now we just have to... Unfortunately, it seems like we have to explicitly specify each one of these. Oh, we don't have pages anymore. Okay, let's try that. Units is not defined. In package imported from... Sure it is, right there. Ah. I guess we'll do that. I mean, I think this is still better than dealing with, you know, any number of ... /... Okay, I should probably just search for all the places that use this by itself. Yeah, because there's like 5 more. And clear, there we go. And run it again. What's the problem? Package input specifier #util / scale 100G value not defined. Oh, utils. Utils is not the same thing as units. And yeah, I could have, like that last one, I could have just been like, oh yeah, units. And maybe this would have worked anyway, do like this instead of changing the import, but whatever. Yep, external APIs. Server started. Hooray. Jeez. Took way too long. Alright. So we have a web server. It has a thing. We can hit tRPC. And this looks like tRPC. So the other thing I wanted to do is that playground thing. It's one of these tabs, right? There we go. So we're gonna set this up. or not equal to production, let's say. No. Should be equal to, let's just in development. We'll run this playground. Oh, hey look. That's a thing. That's not the right thing. Here we go. tRPC API endpoint, playground endpoint, tRPC playground, app use, await express handler. We are using SuperJSON. I think I will also yep, there you go. And the import from tRPC playground. Handlers express. Playground express handler. And we'll update this to use our new constant. Do that. So if we save that now and run the server, okay, go back to localhost / tRPC playground. Cool. How am I supposed to use you? I guess I look at their example, right? Await query. Cool. Oh, here we go. Account.getUserProfile. Account is not defined. Well, look, I don't know. You tell me how to do it. It's not quite as feature rich as like the graphical one, but that's unsurprising. Let's see. Await query. Oh, I see. I think it's supposed to be like await query and then a string like this. Nope. How do I use you? Oh, I see. Await tRPC. Okay, I see. Like you would call it. tRPC.account. Does this work? Yes, there is autocomplete. tRPC.account.getUserProfile. Yeah. I ran it. What's the error here? Oh, right, it's not callable. I need to do .query. Of course. Oh, hey, look, and there's a little green thing. Yay! I'm unauthorized. Okay. I guess I could make this a little bigger. I could just full screen. There we go. Yeah, so we get a response and we get some metadata, and yeah, unauthorized to make that call, because we haven't even built authorization yet for this. Like what's happening behind the scenes, right, is that we are, I think it's context that handles that. So context is supposed to be using get server auth session, looking at the contents of the request to figure out if we have a session or not, and it's saying, oh, we don't have a session. The session is probably null, right? Because this is expecting to call get server session, which is coming from next auth. Yeah, so some stuff will have to change, and I suppose, I don't know. I mean, besides verifying that we can make tRPC calls, I'm not sure how much more useful the playground will be, unless we make a way to authenticate within, I guess, if for local dev, I don't know, we'll see, right, how things get set up in terms of, like, we're going to have the API backend and we're going to have the front end, and we're going to have those both running to, like, dev. We could make, there are some options. Probably what I'll do is, so I have a local Docker compose, which we've looked at a couple of streams now, I think. But this local Docker compose now is set up. It basically doesn't run the web app, right? Oh, this is an old version. But where I had arrived was basically only the database is running. Probably what we'll do is we'll change this to run the API server, and that'll just be for the API. And then maybe what we can do is, there are options, right? So I don't necessarily, like, we could do something like this where we have a run dev and it runs inside of Docker. I just have not had the best experiences with things working reliably in terms of, like, detecting files being changed and, like, reloading for front-end dev inside of Docker. But we can try that. And then also try having an Nginx service, just like we have in prod, fronting both the API and the locally run dev. Is that even possible? Yeah, you could. You have Nginx proxy. Oh no, because then you'd have to have that container have access to the port on the localhost. Well, there are options. We don't have to solve that all right now. Like, I think the next step. What is the next step? I think probably it's going to make sense to switch over to working on the front end stuff, to change everything to not use Next.js, so that boy, there's a lot to do, and I'm just thinking of, like, the optimal order to do it all in. Like, now that we have a tRPC backend, we're not gonna, like, the only piece that's left on that is just authentication. So we could figure that out, but we're not gonna really be able to test it until we have a front end. I think the next step is for me to look at the documentation for the new thing. Where did it go? Hold on. I'm gonna start. Let me close some tabs down here. There has been a lot. Auth.js, right? So look at this and see, because this seems, it's like the next version of NextAuth and not being Next.js specific. So maybe we can just use this, and we'll just be able to use all the stuff we already have, and then just sub in the bits that we don't have Next.js to provide. Yeah, so I don't know, but I'm going to look at this a little bit, and that's what we'll look at next stream. Yep, that's right. I believe Mono is from New Zealand, judging from the name, and a couple of times we talked about the time zone differences. I think that's a good guess. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's time to end the stream for today. I gotta get some lunch going here soon, and tomorrow it's gonna be the usual time for the modded Minecraft stream. Well, there's always the VOD, which will be on YouTube eventually. Probably tomorrow sometime. And then Tuesday I have off from work, so might be a bonus stream on Tuesday. TBD. Exactly how that's going to shake out. But yeah, so that's it for now. Let me switch over to the right screen. So thanks for watching, and until next time, bye-bye.